welcome once again to the fun show here at BATV. Our maestro and host and mentor, Mike Sallen, sitting behind the keyboard, will now think he's under the weather, which is why he hasn't thought of anything to play. Is there an under the weather song? All right, okay. That'll do. You get a condensed fun show today, ladies and gentlemen, as our third seat over here is vacant today after our string of guests. Yes, we were going to have Ted Cruz, but he wasn't able to prove he was an American, so we decided not to have him.
Oh, he's a Canadian. Oh, of course.
He's a Canadian.
Oh, he's a Canadian.
He wanted to stop being a Canadian, but the Canadians wouldn't let him. It's very interesting. The Canadians require, in order to renounce their citizenship, you have to prove that you're a citizen of some other country. And Ted Cruz, in spite of being Texas' United States Senator, is unable to convince the Canadians that he's an American.
Well, are the Texans convinced that he's
The Texans apparently only care about their voters' nationality, not their office holders' nationality. And speaking of surprises at the end, here we are on the verge of having East Boston and Revere, I guess it is, vote on making a casino at Suffolk Downs. And all of a sudden, it turns out that they have to fire the managing partner in the deal up there, Caesar's Properties, or whatever their formal name is. And although it hasn't come out in the formal press yet, both of us have heard very strong undertones that it turns out that they're affiliated with the Russian mafia. So we apparently, well, on the one hand,
murkier and murkier.
Well, on the one hand, you could claim that we came very close to having a casino run by the Russian mafia here, or on the better spin is to say, well, but the other spin is to say that perhaps the Massachusetts Gaming Commission,
Gaming Commission. Maybe they're playing cards all the time.
No. It sounds to me like they may be doing a really good job. Caesar's apparently complained that our rules were arbitrary,
onerous,
and too tough, tougher than other states. And so there's a small mammal trying to figure out why Michael's microphone is not working at the moment, and we'll see whether we've solved that problem.
Mine must be working.
Yeah. In any case, well, don't play with it.
Okay.
Because they don't need the tap test. Anyway, it's possible that we have what we always hoped we have, which is a cleaner and better gaming commission. But it now appears that there's at least a fighting chance for East Boston to turn this casino down. And I know you've been desperate for a casino.
Yes, I have been.
But
looking forward to that unbated breath.
Right. Every couple of shows you say, what about casinos? Yeah. When are they going to be here?
And we always wanted to know about it, and the end result is?
We don't get to vote.
Right. Okay.
We don't get to vote.
And we may not get to a casino either, unless we go down to Foxwood or Mohegan. The way things are going there.
Well, actually, the one down in Providence is almost becoming a full. I guess it's not Providence anyway. That one near Providence.
Yeah, that's all right. That's nice.
What's it called? Twin Rivers.
Twin Rivers. Yeah.
What are the Twin Rivers?
They have a lot of those.
Is that the Connecticut River and what rivers are they?
I think the Charles River and the
Charles River does not run through Rhode Island.
Oh, what about that dirty river that runs down through?
Muddy River?
Oh, the Muddy River. Yeah, those aren't the rivers, no.
You never did teach geography, right?
Well, the Merrimack River. What about that?
Okay.
All right. Well, I did teach geography. Not well, but I taught it. Thank you. Okay.
That's one of the problems. Sometimes people teach stuff that they never learned.
But I had all these maps, and I could never pick out the right map that I had. And then some wise kid in the room stole the world map that I had that I put up.
Oh, really?
He hid it in the closet in another
He
part
didn't
of
like
it.
geography, huh?
He didn't like me, which was all right too. I didn't mind that. They laughed their heads off, the kids, when I was hunting for the other maps.
As long as he made it clear, right?
Yeah,
what it was.
yeah.
Oh,
Now,
incidentally, we wanted to mention that we have a very lively crew of
we have a
interns
very lively
here helping
crew.
out on things, and we have Candace out there. We have Jamie and Jenna and Rachel.
Doug has a bevy of beauties out there working
Well,
for
I
him.
thought I'd hide that fact. Yes.
Well,
but
I
that's
didn't
true.
want to hide it. They are.
There's a good reason for Doug to come into work.
And for us too.
Yes,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm delighted to go in there and see all those beautiful young people in the back there in the studio.
Yes.
He's a lucky man, Doug. As a matter of fact, I may take over the studio and let him do what
Let
I'm
him
doing.
sit out here?
Yeah, let Doug sit out here.
But can he play any of that music?
Probably better than me if I know him.
I don't know.
I would imagine him playing the
I don't know that he knows the 1940s songbook quite as well.
Well, he
as
could
you
play a
do.
bass fiddle. That wouldn't be too bad if he could haul one in here. I don't. What about? Are you happy with the Sox being in the World Series?
You mean the Boston House of David?
Yeah, they are a lot of hirsute people,
Yes,
aren't
the
they?
Boston House of David is in the World Series. It's very funny because isn't this like the fourth? Is this the fourth Sox World Series since 1966?
Yeah.
No, it's the fifth. 67, 75, 04, 07, something like that. So this is the fifth.
Fifth.
And three of them have been against the St. Louis Cardinals.
Right.
It's like it's pre-scheduled or preordained.
Well, you are coming from St. Louis.
Right. I grew up with St. Louis.
Yeah.
Grew up with Stan Musial and stuff. But
Great teams.
in fact, the first game I ever attended at Fenway Park, I was sitting next to Stan Musial in the front row. And that's a great memory.
That is, for me, that would have been an outstanding memory. I
But
like that.
one of the interesting things about this year
Yeah.
is that this is a World Series between the two best teams in baseball statistically, and the first time in quite a while they have identical records.
That's well, you
Identical records. So, in theory, it should be a really good series.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
You know?
I'll watch half the innings. I
Half the innings.
half.
What you watch when we're up or when we're pitching? What is it?
In the middle.
In the middle.
In the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I gravitate both ways. See. Sometimes I actually like the team they're playing against.
We may have to take your clicker away from you. Set on things.
What happened to the Patriots the other day? That was terrible.
It was another instance of Tom not playing well.
Yeah, you're right.
And although I think
he got banged up a lot too.
the crucial play at the end there in overtime
Yeah.
is another sort of a first, because I do believe that's the first time that call has ever been made in the history of football.
Right.
And
It could have gone our way. But
and-
then they would have won anyways.
well, no, not necessarily.
4 plays later, that other guy ran it in.
Except that we would have had the ball back. That was a fourth down play.
Yeah, true.
I mean, they missed a field goal. It would have been our ball, and who knows what Brady could have done.
True.
You know,
They might have.
but he didn't play well.
No, he didn't play. You're right.
And you know, we had 3 very important starters on defense who weren't in there, and
Some very good players that weren't in there.
right. I mean, Will Fork wasn't in there. Mayo wasn't in there. Kelly wasn't in there.
When you lose players like that, that hurts the team.
It does.
It does hurt. You
And-
know better
and
than
it,
me.
And it hurt it hurt him enough that they managed to lose on a strange call in overtime.
There you
So
go.
it's not like they got whacked. It
no.
just always feels worse if it's the Jets. You know, because one hates losing to the Jets.
And Ryan has toned it down a little. you
A
know.
little.
Yeah.
A little.
A little. Okay.
The funny thing is that Ryan had the extra incentive to try to vindicate his brother, because of course his brother is the defensive coordinator of the Saints,
right.
who got one must admit, got upset the week before. So he probably had a family grudge to settle there as well. So it would be set. What do you got on your list today,
I'm
my
looking
friend?
on the list, and I'm seeing town meeting, bicycles, parking, residential housing. I'm kind of tired of these town meetings.
Isn't this funny? The
Bicycles.
agenda rarely changes.
Yeah, spanking at one time.
Well, spanking. Yes, spanking hasn't reappeared.
Yeah.
Perhaps we probably shouldn't say that. It'll probably get somebody to draft a petition and put it on the thing again.
What did you think of this guy, Craig Stephen Wilder's new book, Ebony and Ivory, about Ivy Leagues owning slaves, the Ivy Leagues.
And he used that title?
Yeah.
What does he think he is, Paul McCartney and
I don't know, but that's part of the
Stevie Wonder? Wasn't
that's
that
part of the
wasn't
title.
that McCartney and
Yes.
Ebony and Ivory?
Yeah, it was.
Well, I mean, we know that, particularly Brown University.
Yeah, we know it from Brown.
And
That school I was in, this guy, Agassi. Right.
Agassi, whose house was right down there in Tory Row on things, and
They found mountains of daguerreotypes.
There were
I won't bring up the.
there were 7 most prominent Tories along Tory Row
Yeah,
down there on Mount Auburn Street in Cambridge, and 6 of them were in the triangle trade.
And
And the 7th, who theoretically was not in the triangle trade, built many of the ships that the others used for it. But the interesting thing is that they at least told themselves that they were only in 2 legs of the triangle trade. In other words, they imported the sugar and molasses and brewed the rum
and shipped the rum.
and shipped the rum, but the other leg that took the human beings back down to the Caribbean, they claimed they weren't in.
No. Okay.
Of course,
We know differently now.
it didn't exist without the other 2 legs. So-
True.
Well, I don't think the Browns ever made that pretense. It seems
Okay,
to be.
now I'm reading about Vermont, and they're preparing their school system for.
They have schools in Vermont?
Yes, they do. When they stop tapping those maples for the sugar, then they have
Yeah.
schools. See?
I see. Okay.
All right. Well, anyways, it
In other
turned.
words, their school vacation season is a little different. They let the kids out when the sap's running, right?
Yeah, like me.
They don't have to go collect the little
Like me.
pails anymore, though, because now they got all this rubber tubing that runs.
Anyways, they got something called the Common Core.
Common Core. Okay.
Common Core.
Seems to me like we had that at Harvard in my day.
Yeah, well, reading and math is what they're after, and
That's all?
And they're talking about critical thinking and reasoning. That's what this is all about. They're going to do all new tests. The MCAS is going to be
Well,
cast.
that's good because those 2 things are the things that all this standardized testing has been killing off.
I know, but then at the same time, they say there are 44 states that have signed up for this, including D.C. And then I'm reading that 19 of these states have a different approach to it.
I know you weren't a happy geography teacher, but D.C. isn't a state, just for the record.
No, that's why I said 44 states and D.C.
And D.C., okay.
Yes.
Now, did that include the bête noire of American education, Texas, or not?
I don't think it. They have their own tests.
Yeah.
They have something else. Okay.
They have their own textbooks.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'm reading about this fellow that they discovered his skull from 1.8 million years ago. What do you think
I
of
love
that?
how you refer to somebody from almost 2 million years ago as this fella.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It's like you had him to dinner last week. Whatever the thing is.
well,
All right. So they found this really, really old humanoid skull that does not fit into any of their known traces, and now they got to rethink.
rethink
the
it
evolution of man again.
and maybe it's all from the same line they're thinking now. everybody, all these skulls line up together. They're not separate species, that kind of thing. We'll see. I don't know. But I do know that there's a big fire in Australia. That I think.
Ladies and gentlemen, we call this a segue.
Okay. Well, I figured.
There's a big fire in Australia?
Yeah. 200 miles long.
Oh, forest fire, or grass, or
Yeah.
wildfire. I guess.
Wildfire in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
And all these houses burning
It
down.
makes Colorado look like a campfire.
I know. All these houses and burning and other
Yeah.
damages. It's terrible.
One of the things that our little Tea Party closing of the government really harmed was the recovery in Colorado. So,
Yeah.
on the other hand, Colorado's a red state, so I'm not sure what we should wear. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for this week's presentation of the BATV Unrehearsed Thespian Society. We've reached into the vault and we have pulled out a political fantasy from the past, and we're going to present it to you. And it is very germane, and it's a revelation even to its author, and it happens to be called Pipeline.
Action. We should stop drilling for oil.
How about digging for gold and diamonds?
Why?
Well, everybody can be rich.
Yeah, no more work.
Rampant hedonism.
Enjoy a long, happy life.
9 to 5 is all over.
Endless vacations. Huh?
Guaranteed success for all.
TV narrators will send us directions.
Anybody can be a millionaire.
President Bush's administration has made it possible.
That's why so many illegal immigrants are attracted to America, like Ted Cruz.
Well, there is the war.
But he's lowered taxes.
And some paid more.
But Saddam is out, and the Shiites and the Sunnis just don't get it.
Well, the bombers do. Mission accomplished in Iraq.
Don't tell the terrorists. Don't tell the Taliban.
Well, you mean the insurgents with the IEDs?
I don't find that very amusing, kind sir.
Well, at least the oil companies have full employment.
His energy policy must be working.
Vice President Cheney was helped to design it.
And ethanol distilleries are increasing.
New demand for agricultural products.
And lots of new jobs.
Plenty of field work for the undocumented.
Bicycle production is soaring.
No child left behind, and the MCAS.
And the National Guard is actually guarding the borders.
Amnesty and guest workers.
New immigration laws being studied.
Voter registration is growing.
And there's new respect from the UN.
New Medicare, a choice for all.
Prescription regulations are simplified.
Social Security fund is protected. Though.
Census disenfranchisement is okay.
Outsourcing policy will end the energy crisis.
Replacing Minutemen with volunteers.
Free market competition returns.
With government civility.
FEMA's accomplishment.
Comprehensive reform.
Legislative enforcement.
Employers' cooperation.
The IRS, a rhetorical question.
Corporate America looking after workers' needs.
Federal pension programs to back the bankrupt companies.
With court approval, no less.
Dropping poll numbers, sadly.
The president issues his legacy.
Democratic agenda winning in Iraq.
Enduring programs.
Restoring luster.
Independence from foreign oil.
Ultimatum on uranium nuclear development.
And there's a new CIA director.
Taping all phone calls could hurt, though.
Well, then there's a new presidential press secretary.
And a new White House chief of staff.
And there's taping all the phone calls could hurt.
New FEMA director.
New Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, and other nominees.
I'm confused.
The new Secretary of State.
No change on stem cell experimentation.
Higher death benefits for our troops killed in Iraq. That's good.
A new director of National Security Agency.
Yeah, the threat from the bird flu pandemic.
How about the mad cow disease?
Swordfish and tuna, mercury content, right?
So we shouldn't eat chicken, beef, or fish?
I wouldn't put it quite like that.
Be careful, diets can help.
Yeah, carbs, proteins, veggies.
How about a private army to fight a public war?
Isn't that an interesting idea?
No, it's not in the budget.
Maybe in the future.
Send for that huckster's free video.
Ah, that's right. Monthly checks from real estate sales, right?
My own business choice. An ice cream truck.
Selling kids cones and sherbet, I hope.
Well, it's a swell job for summer.
I drive down to Florida.
Well, you'd need a new license.
No problemo.
What did you do? Play music for the tots?
And ring the bell.
But there's competition.
Another guy got there first.
Hey, I just trained a guy to do the route.
What if he rips me off?
He could steal your truck.
Nah, I check his references.
How about identity theft?
Cops would catch him.
But the truck's a wreck.
All the ice cream's gone too.
That was Jose's medication.
He was depressed about his senior prom.
So you loaned him money to rent a tux?
And then he takes the bus to Mexico.
So now you're broke and homeless?
Arrested for vagrancy.
The judge puts you on probation?
You audition for the Idols?
What, the TV show?
Actually, it's the radio one.
Ah, on a local station?
No, it's out of state.
Chicago, L.A.?
No, the Cayman Islands.
Wait a second, is your passport up to date?
Perhaps Dusty Photo would know.
Ha ha, wise guy.
There's still a free video.
Yes, make a fortune from real estate.
Anyway, ice cream is risky.
Profits can just melt away.
I'm glad you still can laugh.
Prosperity's just around the corner.
You can't give up.
Something good will always happen.
Just check the astrological chart, huh?
You got to be optimistic.
You've got a strong heart.
Never mind my cardiac condition.
I feel better already, guys.
You've got nothing to fear but fear itself.
Thanks, but I'm joining the Boy Scouts.
Will they guard the border too? Blackout.
Another great.
So that's it, folks. Political satire on the hoof.
That's
All
right.
set.
There we go. We're all set now. And
There's a funny thing. This is the New York Times. If you didn't see it, folks.
oh yeah.
This is the first time I remember in quite a long time seeing comics in the New York
you
Times.
Read one of those things. You said you were going to read one. I asked you to, didn't I?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Says the Republican budget conferees must be accompanied by a certified economist. And it shows a guy leaning over their shoulder going, now show your work now. That budget doesn't make sense. And then it says failure to raise the debt ceiling will result in automatic gun control legislation, ensuring the GOP won't risk default ever again.
Right.
And it says the full faith and credit of our NRA ratings is never in doubt.
Well, there you are.
Anyway, those people.
Okay, you've done some great work there. All right. And those two Florida convicts who had fake release papers, that forgeries.
Shows what you can do on the computer these days, right?
Yeah, and they say they're very good. There they were. They found them in a motel, not too far away.
Well, they were easy to catch.
Yeah.
Apparently, but
Do you think that they forged the motel thing?
yeah, well, they could have. Apparently, making forged release documents must be even easier than we thought if these guys weren't dumb enough to split up and get further away.
Yeah. Well, they went back and.
I mean, there they were free and clear for a couple of days, and what were they, like 40 miles away in a motel?
Yeah, but then they went back and checked the papers or something again. And then they left the second time.
Well, I mean, the thing is, one probably should ask yourself, how is it that a guy serving a life sentence is going to be presenting his own papers to you? I mean, shouldn't they come from a court officer or through the mail or something like that?
Those guys should be on this program.
Hey, those guys were clever.
I'm saying they should be on this show.
Right. Let's not lose sight of the fact that they were actually both convicted murderers.
Okay, well, I feel kind of.
Although I remember in the old days that they used to say that people who ran release programs and such like that, trustee programs and stuff, they always preferred murderers because by and large they found that murderers were more reliable and less violent than other criminals.
Fairly straightforward about things.
Yeah.
Then I'm reading about all this violence.
I don't think that included Whitey Bulger, though.
Oh, that's well. Oh, you don't think he would do that stuff?
I don't think he was reliable and peaceable.
They said 19 people he was involved with murdering. No.
Stephen Davis still wants to speak at the sentencing hearing.
Yeah. Well, what did they give him? 6 years? Like, well, look at those those poor young women in Missouri, and the attorney general said no. He says, no, I don't think they were raped. No. What do you think of that story?
It's always a tough call, and
All right. Well,
it's funny though because
I think it's terrible.
so many of those judgments, those things like that, where there seems to be no justice, seem to occur in red states,
Yes.
which is not what you'd expect. The red states are meant to be fire and brimstone, law and order, and yet cases like that are inevitably in New Mexico, Texas, Missouri, Florida, you know.
Well, what about all these cases on women's rights and doctors, and they make it so tough for abortions down
Right,
there.
like North Carolina, which just
and
tried to
Texas too.
outlaw it.
They're awful, these things. I mean, the doctor has to be registered with the hospital in Texas. He could live 200 miles from the hospital.
Well, and on top of that, the hospitals have already, in order to not have the Tea Party all over them, have made a pact never to give privileges to anybody who works in a clinic.
That's true. Okay. You're not making me happy, though. All right.
Well, you brought it up.
Yes, I know. Okay. Then here's Hillary and her husband, Hillary Clinton, supporting...
Her husband, wasn't his name
Bill.
Bill?
Bill,
Yeah,
he plays
okay.
the clarinet,
Saxophone.
saxophone.
No, saxophone,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
saxophone.
Okay, so
How soon they
they're
forget.
supporting Terry McAuliffe. He's running for governor in Virginia.
Okay.
I think it's good.
Why not?
He says he's an old family friend and was loyal in the past.
Well, they can support whoever they want. I mean, after all.
Yeah.
Is this in a primary or is this in a general election?
This is, I think it's the prime. Well, I don't know.
It seems
if
to me
is-
like a primary would be over by now.
Yeah, I
wouldn't
think it is over. I think it's a general.
So
they
he's
got
representing they're supporting a Democrat against a Republican in
Named
Virginia. Why is that
Cuccinello.
even a story?
Well, I don't know. It's a strange. This guy who is running the Republican is kind of weird about a lot of stuff. I don't understand the statements he makes or why we're even paying any attention to it on this show.
That sounds like a typical Republican these days,
Okay.
particularly a Southern Republican. Actually, somebody wrote a column recently that said these people aren't Republicans, they're Confederates.
That's good. I like that.
Yep.
Then there's Yale and Harvard research and making progress in methods to record human genomes.
Yeah, well, they seem to be doing it at quite a rapid pace.
Yeah.
When it's not that long ago that they did it for the first time ever.
Ever.
I mean, literally only a few years ago, and now they're routinely doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
3 letters and.
Yeah.
They
But
do
I
it.
mean, who 10 years ago would have thought that we'd be whacking out the genome of a shrew just for the heck of it? You know?
Yeah, it really. I think it's exciting,
And it turns out that the genome for every mammal is incredibly close. You know how they love to say that the genome of a chimpanzee is like 97%
yeah.
or 98% the same as that of a man? But it turns out the genome of a potted plant is like 60% the same as a man. You know?
Here we go.
Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. We'll see you in our dreams. And one night we'll actually play the same notes that I sing, and it'll be a pure mistake. Good night, everybody, from the Fun Show here at BATV.
Look at that moon.
And good night, Irene. And we will see you all back at the Fun Show next week.
There it is. We got an extra minute on there.